The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine has denied rumors regarding the situation in the Pokrovsk-Mirnohorod direction. None of the units of the Ukrainian Defense Forces are encircled or blocked in this agglomeration. The situation in Pokrovsk itself remains difficult, but it is fully under the control of Ukrainian defenders. This was reported by Major Andriy Kovalev, a representative of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. According to him, the spread of information about the encirclement of the Ukrainian armed forces near Pokrovsk may be part of enemy information and psychological operations. In reality, a comprehensive operation by the defense forces is underway aimed at stabilizing the situation.
Currently, a comprehensive operation is being conducted to identify enemy forces in the urban area, destroy them, and drive the Russian occupiers out of Pokrovsk.
Russian troops continue to intensify their efforts and conduct active assault operations in the Pokrovsk area. Much is at stake in this direction for Ukraine and its allies. This was stated by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky during his visit to the command post of the 7th Rapid Response Corps of the Air Assault Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. The president thanked the soldiers for their service in this hotspot, emphasizing its strategic importance.
This is very important, because it's not just our land. Above all, it is the enemy's psychological pressure on our state and on all our allies. And much is being decided precisely in this direction.
At the same time, Colonel retired of the Armed Forces of Ukraine military expert, pilot and instructor Roman Svitan warned about possible provocations by the Russians in Pokrovsk. According to him, Russian occupiers in Pokrovsk entered the rear of Ukrainian forces wearing civilian clothes. The Russians gathered in the city posing as civilians and then began combat operations. It is quite likely that the invaders may resort to this method again. According to analysts from the Deep State Project, Pokrovsk is being gradually absorbed. The occupiers are setting up positions in the city. Russian troops also have places to amass forces and control their logistics. The authors of the report note that at the same time, the Ukrainian armed forces continue both clearing operations and the elimination of the enemy by all available means. Drone pilots play a key role.
Protests have taken place in India over the deception and deaths of its citizens who were tricked into being sent to the front lines in Russia to fight against Ukraine. Dozens of families from different states in India are demanding that their loved ones be brought home and that those responsible for the recruitment be punished. According to relatives, young men were recruited through agents who promised them legal jobs with high salaries and accommodation. But instead, they were pressured into signing contracts in Russian and sent to the front lines with minimal training. The protesters held placards with photos of the young men in uniform. Some of them have died. According to media reports, the families of those killed are not receiving any compensation from the Russian authorities. One of the placards read, "Putin, stop killing innocent Indians." The story of one of the Indian students who signed a contract with the Russian Ministry of Defense was told by his friend.
Yes, my friend. Well, he signed the contract and then just 10 days later, that's it. I don't know where he is. How do you say it? It's body, nobody after all, as they say.
Meanwhile, North Korea in September sent about 5,000 so-called builders to the Russian Federation to help restore infrastructure. This was stated by South Korean lawmaker Lee Sung-kwon.
About 5,000 North Korean construction troops have been gradually redeployed to Russia since September and are expected to be mobilized for infrastructure restoration.
According to the South Korean lawmaker, there have been ongoing signs of preparation and selection of personnel for the deployment of additional troops. At the same time, according to South Korean intelligence, about 10,000 DPRK military personnel are currently deployed near the Russian-Ukrainian border. South Korea estimates that at least 600 North Korean soldiers have been killed in the war in Ukraine and thousands more have been wounded. Analysts emphasize that the DPRK receives financial aid, military technology, food, and energy resources from the Russian Federation in exchange for supplying troops. Thanks to this, Pyongyang is able to avoid the consequences of international sanctions imposed on its nuclear and missile programs. In turn, an international sanctions monitoring group wrote in its report last month that North Korea plans to send 40,000 workers to Russia, including several delegations of IT specialists. According to UN sanctions, North Korean workers are prohibited from earning money abroad. At the same time, 2 captured North Korean soldiers have stated that they want to escape to South Korea. The Constitution of South Korea stipulates that all Koreans, including those from the North, are full citizens. This rule also applies to prisoners of war in Ukraine. It is known that about a year ago, the defense forces captured the first North Korean soldiers who were fighting against Ukraine in the Kursk region. The North Koreans did not speak Ukrainian, English, or Russian, so communication with them was only possible through Korean interpreters. At the time of capture, one of the foreigners had a Russian-style military ID issued in the name of another person registered in the Republic of Tuva, Russian Federation. The other North Korean had no documents at all. Additionally, Ukrainian intelligence has released new evidence of war crimes committed by international mercenaries from Colombia serving in the Russian army.
In the United States, a B-52 bomber was spotted over California carrying a new nuclear cruise missile which resembles the new low-observable AGM-181A cruise missile. This was reported by The Aviationist. The photo was taken by aviation photographer Ian Recchio. In close-up shots, you can see a T-shaped tail with 3 surfaces, folding wings under the fuselage, and wedge-shaped nose and tail sections. These features match the official image of the LRSO missile. The bomber was spotted while flying over Owens Valley, California. According to the plans of the U.S. Air Force, the new AGM-181A long-range standoff missile is intended to replace the outdated stockpile of B-version ALCM nuclear warhead missiles. It is known that this missile has been in service with the U.S. Air Force since the 1980s as one of the elements of the nuclear triad in the nuclear deterrence system. The missile can be mounted on B-52 and B-21 Raider bombers. The report states, against the backdrop of preparations for a production decision in fiscal year 2027, testing activity has increased, as evidenced by the appearance of a B-52 with this missile. Earlier, Newsweek wrote, the US has already scheduled the first tests of the nuclear missile because Russia and China continue to test their arsenals. Last week, the head of the White House ordered the Department of Defense to immediately begin testing nuclear weapons. It is also known that the U.S. Space Force is preparing to deploy 2 new remotely controlled weapons systems designed to jam Chinese and Russian satellites, Bloomberg reports. Earlier, the media reported that in September, B-52 strategic bombers took off from U.S. bases heading toward Europe. This sudden redeployment took place against the backdrop of an act of aggression against a NATO country. Russian drones breached Polish airspace and caused material damage. Polish air defense opened fire on aerial targets.
The Caucasus is rearming. In Azerbaijan, new air defense missile systems produced by China were shown for the first time ahead of the military parade. We are talking about the Chinese FD-2000B surface-to-air missile system. Previously, such a system had not been seen in the country's military arsenal, writes Union, citing Militarny. The appearance of the Chinese air defense missile system in Azerbaijan's arsenal indicates a strengthening of military technical cooperation between the two countries. In the rehearsal video, the distinctive architecture of the FD-2000B launcher, mounted on a 4-axle chassis, is clearly visible. This is an export modification of the Chinese long-range air defense system HQ-9. The system is based on the Soviet S-300 but has been significantly modernized, particularly with modern electronics and an improved guidance algorithm. The complex is designed to destroy aircraft, cruise missiles, and short-range ballistic missiles. Its stated range reaches up to 200 kilometers, and the maximum interception altitude is about 27 kilometers. Previously, Baku had not reported acquiring this system. However, in 2018, Azerbaijan expressed interest in it while commenting on similar purchases by Pakistan. At that time, the system was considered as an alternative to the Russian S-300, which was already in service with the Azerbaijani army. According to military analyst Mariner, the Russian short-range air defense system Tor-M2 was also featured in the parade. As analysts note, this may indicate an upgrade and expansion of the country's air defense capabilities. The authors explained that Azerbaijan's air defense consists of several layers of defense. They have Russian Tor-M2 and S-300 systems as well as the Israeli Barak MX system. They believe that the Chinese FD-2008 could make this network more flexible and multi-layered.
On November 5th, Yekaterina Mizulina, head of the so-called Safe Internet League of the aggressor country Russia, and the singer Shaman demonstratively registered their marriage at the registry office in temporarily occupied Donetsk.
I now pronounce you, by the power vested in me, husband and wife.
For the 33-year-old singer, Mizulina became his third wife. 40-year-old Mizulina had not previously been officially married. The couple is known for their outrageous actions and statements. Shaman previously caused a wave of bewilderment among Russians. He decided to congratulate Yekaterina Mizulina on her birthday in an original way. In the video, he and Mizulina are walking through the forest, after which the couple finds a large box tied with a ribbon in the colors of the Russian flag. Inside was the logo of a newly created party called We.
Yekaterina, for your birthday, I'm giving you something that no one has ever given anyone else in this world. I'm giving you a party, and our party will be called We.
Yekaterina Mizulina is known for her anti-Ukrainian stance and her attacks on freedom of speech in Russia. She advocates for censorship in the Russian segment of the internet, initiating sanctions and fines for Russian media outlets. The Mirror notes that she seeks to eradicate criticism of the dictator, especially regarding the war against Ukraine. Mizulina has also repeatedly filed complaints with law enforcement agencies against bloggers and musicians. For example, she previously reported her newlywed husband Yegor Krid's competitor to the authorities. She did not like his large-scale concert at Luzhniki. In one of her interviews, Mizulina criticized people who left Russia because of the war.
Some crowing roosters made a number of public statements before leaving our country. For this, of course, we especially thank our so-called Western partners, because this is a cleansing from these undesirable citizens.
Earlier, Stat Duma Deputy Vladislav Davankov demanded that Mizulina provide a report on the use of 200 million rubles from the budget. Shaman is one of the main performers of the era of the so-called special military operation. In addition to the fact that Shaman married Mizulina on November 5th, he also became Singer of the Year in Russia for the third time in a row. Following him are Oleg Gazmanov and Sergei Lazarev. It is known that Shaman supports Russian aggression against Ukraine. He has performed concerts in the occupied Donbass and the Crimean Peninsula. On his Telegram channel, Shaman posted a video with the caption, "Crimea is Russia." Also in February 2023, Shaman, also known as Yaroslav Dronov, was in the temporarily occupied part of the left bank of Kherson region, where he performed at a commissioned concert in support of the Kremlin regime. For supporting the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the singer is under sanctions from 27 EU countries, Ukraine and Canada. On January 29, 2024, Mizulina was added to the sanctions list of 27 EU countries for human rights violations and serious and systematic violations of freedom of expression.